Captain Jiwan stood at the viewing port of the human shuttlecraft, watching the massive alien vessel grow larger with each passing second. The ship was unlike anything humanity had ever built. It looked like a crystal flower blooming in the darkness of space with silver petals that caught and reflected starlight in patterns that hurt to look at directly. First Contact Protocol 7 is now active, announced Dr. Minho from his seat behind a wall of translation equipment. The linguist had spent 3 years preparing for this moment, learning what little they knew about the Velkhari language from the radio signals that had started this whole process. All recording devices are running. History starts now. Security. Chief Hyeji checked her weapon for the 5th time in 10 minutes, even though she knew it would remain holstered throughout the meeting. The weapon was more for show than anything else. Earth's leaders wanted the aliens to know humans could defend themselves, but they also wanted to appear peaceful. It was a careful balance. Engineer Do-hyun was quiet in his corner, running final checks on the gift they were bringing. A small device that could translate basic mathematical concepts into visual displays. It was simple but effective, and hopefully impressive enough to show that humans were worth talking to. 10 minutes to docking, called the pilot from the front of the shuttle. All systems are green. The welcome mat is out and we are cleared for landing. Jiwan nodded and turned away from the viewing port. His team was ready. They had trained for this moment for months. Every possible scenario had been discussed, planned for, and practiced. Every possible scenario except the one that was about to happen. In the cargo area of the shuttle, a German shepherd named Rex lay quietly in his travel crate. The dog had been Jiwan's companion for 3 years, ever since the captain had been diagnosed with severe anxiety following a deep space accident. Rex was officially listed as an emotional support animal, but to Jiwan he was simply family. The original plan had been to leave Rex on Earth during the mission. Pets were not part of First Contact protocols, but the night before departure, Jiwan had suffered his worst panic attack in months. The thought of facing unknown aliens without his companion had triggered every fear response in his body. Dr. Sarah Chen, the mission psychologist, had made the call. "Take the dog," she had said simply. "A captain who cannot function is worse than a captain who bends the rules." So Rex had been quietly added to the mission manifest under personal support equipment. The paperwork was filed correctly, but nobody had thought to mention to the aliens that one of the humans would be bringing a 4-legged companion. The shuttle shuddered slightly as it entered the docking bay of the alien vessel. Through the hull they could hear the mechanical sounds of the docking clamps engaging and the atmosphere being equalized between the two ships. "Atmosphere is breathable," reported Do-hyun, checking his instruments. "Gravity is about 90% of Earth, normal. Temperature is comfortable. They really did their homework on making us feel welcome." On the other side of the docking bay, Ambassador Quilneth stood with her delegation, watching the human shuttle through the transparent aluminum barrier that separated the landing bay from the receiving area. Her crystalline antlers were shifting, through colors that indicated both excitement and nervousness. This was the moment her people had been preparing for since they first detected human radio signals. The Velkhari were a peaceful species. They had evolved from creatures similar to earth deer, growing tall and graceful with antlers that could conduct and display electromagnetic energy. Their society was built around harmony and understanding. They had never encountered a predator species before, and certainly never one that had developed space travel. "The readings from their shuttle are fascinating," whispered science leader Torman. His antlers were pulsing with pale blue light, indicating deep curiosity. "Their technology is different from ours but clearly advanced, and the biological readings show 4 distinct life forms aboard. 4 humans, as expected," nodded Quilneth, "though the size readings seem unusual for one of them. Perhaps their species has more variation than we assumed." The humans had sent detailed biological information about themselves in preparation for the meeting. Height, weight, atmospheric requirements, dietary needs. All the technical data needed to ensure nobody died from environmental incompatibility. But they had sent information about one human, assuming all humans were basically the same size and shape. The shuttle's engines went quiet. A few moments later, Lights began flashing around the airlock, indicating that the humans were preparing to disembark. "Everyone ready," called Ji-won inside the shuttle. He opened Rex's travel crate and attached a standard leash to the dog's collar. Rex stood up, stretched, and looked around with alert brown eyes. The dog could sense the tension in his human and moved closer, offering the silent comfort he had been trained to provide. "Sir," said Hyeji quietly, "are you sure about bringing him? The protocols do not specifically forbid companion animals," replied Ji-won firmly. "Rex goes where I go. End of discussion." Dr. Minho looked up from his translation. "Equipment. Actually, this might be interesting from a linguistic standpoint. If we encounter any concepts related to human-animal relationships, having a living example could be valuable for communication." The airlock cycled open with a soft hiss. Ji-won stepped forward, Rex walking calmly beside him. The other 3 humans followed in standard diplomatic formation. On the alien side of the docking bay, Ambassador Quilnith felt her antlers flash bright yellow with shock. The humans had emerged from their shuttle, and with them came something that sent ice through her veins. Walking beside the lead human was a creature unlike anything in Velkari experience. It moved on 4 legs with perfect balance and coordination. Its head was held high, ears erect and constantly moving to track sounds. Its mouth was slightly open, revealing teeth that were clearly designed for tearing flesh. Its eyes swept the area with the focused attention of a predator evaluating potential prey. "By the eternal crystal," whispered Tormund, his antlers now flashing rapid pulses of orange that indicated extreme alarm. They brought their apex predator with them. The creature was clearly under the complete control of the lead human. It moved when he moved, stopped when he stopped, and constantly looked to him for guidance. To the Velkari, this was the most terrifying and impressive thing they had ever witnessed. Their new allies had not simply tamed their world's most dangerous predator. They had trained it to the point where it would walk calmly into unknown territory, surrounded by alien creatures without showing any signs of aggression or fear. The level of dominance and control this represented was beyond anything the peaceful Velkari had imagined possible. Ambassador Quilnith straightened her spine and forced her antlers to shift to a calm blue-green color. If the humans trusted her, people enough to bring their ultimate guardian into this meeting, she would show them the respect such trust deserved. "Greetings, humans of Earth," she called out in carefully practiced English, her voice carrying across the docking bay through translation speakers. "We welcome you and your—" She paused, searching for the right word for the magnificent predator. "Your honored companion to our vessel." Captain Ji-won smiled and waved, completely unaware that he had just elevated humanity's status in alien eyes simply by having a well-trained dog. The central meeting chamber of the Velkari vessel was designed to impress. Crystal formations grew from the walls in patterns that created natural acoustics, and soft light flowed through channels carved into the ceiling. Ambassador Quilnith had chosen this room carefully to show the humans the best of Velkari artistic achievement. Captain Ji-won entered first, his boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. Rex walked beside him, the dog's nails clicking rhythmically as they crossed the chamber. To Ji-won, Rex seemed relaxed and curious, which was exactly what he needed to keep his own anxiety under control. To the Velkari delegation watching from the far end of the chamber, the scene looked completely different. They saw a human warrior entering with his battle companion, the predator's claws clicking against the floor like weapons being readied. The creature's head moved constantly, scanning for threats and escape routes with the efficiency of a born killer. "Welcome to our vessel," said Ambassador Quilnith, her antlers shifting to formal silver patterns. "We are honored by your presence and the presence of your esteemed companion." Ji-won smiled and gave a slight bow. "Thank you for receiving us. This is Rex, my support animal." He gestured toward the dog, who looked up at the sound of his name and wagged his tail once. The Velkari delegation tensed. The predator had responded instantly to its human's gesture and vocalization. Such perfect obedience suggested a level of training that went far beyond anything they had imagined possible. Rex, picking up on the tension in the room, did what came naturally. He sat down and tilted his head, looking at the strange, tall creatures with their branching head ornaments. His mouth fell open slightly as he panted, revealing his teeth. Science leader Tormund's antlers flashed bright orange. The predator was evaluating them, showing its weapons in what could only be a display of dominance, yet it remained perfectly controlled, waiting for orders from its human master. Dr. Minho stepped forward with his translation equipment. We should begin with basic linguistic protocols. Perhaps we could start with simple greetings and introductions. Of course, replied Quilnith, though her eyes remained fixed on Rex. But first, may we ask about your companion? We wish to show proper respect to such a magnificent creature. Jiwan looked down at Rex, who was now lying down with his head resting on his paws, eyes half closed. Oh, Rex is just a good boy. He goes everywhere with me. He's very well trained and won't cause any problems. The translation equipment struggled with the phrase good boy, and several possible meanings appeared on Minho's screen. The Velkhari received it as something like honored warrior or proven hunter. The casual way the human spoke about his predator suggested a relationship so natural and established that no special ceremony was needed. He goes everywhere with you, repeated Quilnith slowly. This meant the humans brought their apex predators on all their important missions. The implications were staggering. Engineer Do-hyun began setting up the mathematical display device, but the aliens were more interested in watching Rex. The dog had noticed a pattern of light moving across the floor from one of the crystal formations. His head lifted slightly, tracking the movement with lazy interest. He observes everything, whispered Tormund to another Velkhari. See how he monitors all movement in the chamber. Even at rest, he maintains tactical awareness. Security Chief. Hyeji stepped forward to begin the formal introduction of the human delegation. I am Security Chief Hyeji, responsible for protecting our diplomatic mission. The Velkhari found this fascinating. The humans had brought their own protector, but they also traveled with their apex predator. This suggested either incredible confidence or a military structure more complex than anything they had encountered. Rex chose that moment to do something that made the situation infinitely more complex. He stood up, walked over to Ambassador Quilnith and sat directly in front of her. His tail wagged twice and he looked up at her with friendly brown eyes. The entire Velkhari delegation froze. The predator had approached their leader without any command from its human. It was making direct contact, evaluating the ambassador at close range. Oh, he likes you, said Jiwan cheerfully. Rex is very good with people. He can sense when someone is friendly. Quilneth's antlers cycled through several colors as she processed this information. The predator could evaluate the emotional state of alien species it had never encountered before. It had determined that she was not a threat and had approached to establish dominance over the Velkhari leadership. May I touch your companion? Asked Quilnith carefully. She understood that this was probably some kind of test. The predator wanted to assess her directly. Sure, he loves attention. Just pet him on the head or behind the ears. Quilnith slowly extended one slender hand toward Rex. The dog remained perfectly still, allowing her to touch the fur on top of his head. His tail wagged harder, and he leaned slightly into the contact. The reaction among the Velkhari was immediate. Their leader was being allowed to touch the apex predator. This was clearly a sign of acceptance and alliance. The creature was permitting physical contact as a gesture of trust between species. Dr. Minho watched the interaction through his translation equipment and began to notice something odd. The aliens kept using terms that his system translated as warbeast, apex hunter, and battle companion when referring to Rex. He made a note to check his translation matrices later. Your companion shows great wisdom, said Quilnith, still gently petting Rex's head. To allow such contact between our species shows trust beyond what we had hoped for. Well, Rex has always been good with strangers, replied Jiwan. He's a rescue dog, actually. We found him when he was just a puppy, abandoned and scared. Now he helps me stay calm during stressful situations like this. The translation equipment worked overtime with this statement. The aliens understood that the humans had found this predator as a juvenile, raised it from helplessness to become their ultimate companion. The level of dedication and long-term planning this represented was incredible. Rex, satisfied with the attention he was receiving, walked back to Jiwon and lay down again. To him, this was just another day meeting new people. To the Valkyrie, they had just witnessed a diplomatic interaction of unprecedented complexity. "Shall we begin the formal proceedings?" asked Dr. Minho, gesturing toward his translation equipment. "Yes," agreed Quilneth, though she kept glancing at Rex with new respect. "But first we must record this moment properly. The first meeting between our species, blessed by the approval of your apex guardian, will be remembered for generations." Jiwon smiled and scratched behind Rex's ears. The dog's tail thumped against the floor in contentment. Neither of them had any idea that they had just established humanity as the most impressively dangerous species the Valkyrie had ever encountered, all because of a simple gesture of interspecies friendship. The cultural exchange session began 2 hours after the initial introductions. Captain Jiwon sat at the curved table the Valkyrie had provided, with Rex lying comfortably at his feet. The dog had found the perfect spot where he could keep an eye on both his human and the interesting aliens who smelled like flowers and electricity. "We would like to learn about your homeworld," said Ambassador Quilneth, her antlers glowing with soft blue curiosity patterns. "Perhaps you could tell us about your society and how your people live." Dr. Minho activated his presentation system, and images of Earth appeared on the chamber's crystal displays. Cities with tall buildings, forests and oceans, and people going about their daily lives. "Earth has about 8 billion humans," began Jiwon. "We live in cities and towns all over the planet. Most families have companions like Rex. We estimate there are about 1 billion dogs living with human families worldwide." The Valkyrie delegation went completely silent. Science leader Tormund's antlers flashed rapid yellow pulses of shock. 1 billion apex predators living among the humans. 1 billion trained battle companions integrated into their society. 1 billion, repeated Quilneth slowly. "Your species has successfully bonded with 1 billion predator companions." "Oh yes," said Jiwon cheerfully, not noticing the alien's reaction. "Dogs are very popular. Some families have 2 or 3. There are hundreds of different breeds, each with different abilities and characteristics." Engineer Dohyun pulled up more images showing various dog breeds: German Shepherds, Border Collies, Golden Retrievers, Chihuahuas, Great Danes. To human eyes, these were beloved pets with different personalities and appearances. To the Valkyrie, they were looking at humanity's specialized military forces. Large breeds for heavy combat, small breeds for reconnaissance, intelligent breeds for tactical operations, gentle breeds for psychological warfare. Each type serves a different purpose, observed Tormund, his voice barely above a whisper. "Exactly," agreed Dohyun, completely missing the alien's meaning. "Some are good for families with children, some are better for people who live alone, some need lots of exercise, others are happy just relaxing at home." Security Chief Hyeji decided to demonstrate some of Earth's technology. She pulled out a standard tablet and showed them videos of human cities, transportation systems, and daily life. One video showed a park where people were playing with their dogs, humans throwing balls and frisbees while dogs ran to retrieve them. To human eyes, this was recreation and fun. The Valkyrie watched in stunned silence as they observed what appeared to be large-scale military training exercises. Humans were practicing projectile coordination with their predator partners. The accuracy and speed of the retrieval operations was beyond anything they had imagined. "These training grounds," said Quilneth carefully, "they exist in every human settlement." "Pretty much," replied Hyeji. "Every neighborhood has parks. Kids grow up playing with dogs, it's completely normal." Another video showed humans walking dogs on leashes through city streets. The aliens observed humans allowing their predator companions to lead the way, following behind in what appeared to be a show of respect for the creature's superior tracking abilities. Rex, hearing familiar sounds from the videos, lifted his head and looked at the display. His ears perked forward and his tail gave a small wag as he recognized scenes from home. The Valkyrie tensed. The predator was responding to images of its homeland, possibly receiving instructions or updates through some form of communication they could not detect. Rex remembers home. said Jiwon, reaching down to pet the dog. He's probably thinking about the park where we used to play fetch every morning before work. To the aliens, this sounded like the human was explaining that his battle companion was analyzing tactical information about Earth's defensive positions. Dr. Minho pulled up educational materials about human history and culture. He showed images of ancient civilizations, art, music, and literature. But the aliens were more interested in the historical images that showed humans with dogs throughout time. Cave paintings of humans hunting with wolves, medieval knights with hunting hounds, modern soldiers with military working dogs. To the Velkari, this was clear evidence that the human-predator alliance was not recent, but had been developing for thousands of years. Your species has been perfecting this partnership for millennia, observed science leader Torman. Dogs have been humanity's best friends for about 15,000 years, confirmed Minho. The relationship started when wolves began following human hunting groups. Over time, we learned to work together. The Velkari heard this as a description of humanity's long campaign to recruit and train the apex predators of their world. 15,000 years of careful selective breeding and psychological conditioning to create the perfect alliance. Rex chose this moment to perform what his human considered a simple, endearing behavior. He stood up, walked over to Jiwon, and rested his chin on the captain's knee, looking up with gentle brown eyes. To Jiwon, this was Rex asking for attention and reassurance in an unfamiliar environment. The captain scratched behind the dog's ears and spoke softly to him. To the Velkari, they witnessed the apex predator approaching its human partner and engaging in what appeared to be a complex communication ritual. The human responded immediately, with physical contact and vocalizations that seemed to convey tactical information. "The bond between your species," said Ambassador Quilneth, her voice filled with something approaching reverence. "It is unlike anything we have encountered in our exploration of the galaxy." "Dogs really are amazing," agreed Jiwon. "Rex here has been with me for 3 years. He can sense when I'm stressed or anxious and knows exactly how to help me feel better. Sometimes I think he understands me better than other humans do." The aliens absorbed this information with growing awe. The predator could detect and respond to its human's emotional and physical state. It could provide tactical support, psychological assistance, and personal protection all simultaneously. Engineer Do-hyun showed them more videos of human technology, but the aliens kept returning their attention to Rex. When the dog yawned and stretched, they interpreted it as a display of supreme confidence. When he shifted position to get more comfortable, they saw tactical repositioning. "We have prepared quarters for your delegation," announced Quilneth as the session came to an end, "with special accommodations for your honored companion." "That's very thoughtful," said Jiwon. "Rex is pretty adaptable, but he does like to sleep near me. I hope that won't be a problem." "Of course not," replied the ambassador quickly. "We would not dream of separating battle partners." As the human delegation was escorted to their quarters, the Velkari leaders gathered to discuss what they had learned. "They have integrated over 1 billion apex predators into their society," whispered science leader Torman. "Each one bonded to human families trained from birth, loyal beyond question. And they speak of this as if it is completely natural," added Ambassador Quilneth, "as if turning the most dangerous predators on their world into willing partners is something any species could accomplish. None of them could imagine the reality, that humans had simply learned to love unconditionally, and that love had been returned by creatures who asked for nothing more than food, shelter, and companionship. To the Velkari, humanity had just revealed themselves to be the most impressively powerful species they had ever encountered. Rex, meanwhile, was perfectly content to explore his new temporary home, completely unaware that he had single-handedly established humanity's reputation as apex predator whisperers across the galaxy. The second day of first contact brought unexpected complications. 3 more alien species had arrived at the neutral station, each wanting to witness humanity's first diplomatic contact. The arrival of additional species meant larger meetings, more complex protocols, and unfortunately for the human delegation, more opportunities for misunderstandings. Captain G1 stood in the expanded conference chamber with Rex at his side, watching as the new arrivals took their positions around the curved table. The Threnody delegation looked like armored reptiles, their scales gleaming under the chamber's lights. Their leader, War Commander Vexith, had a reputation throughout the sector as a fierce military strategist. The ethereal wisps floated above their designated area, beings of pure energy contained within crystalline frameworks. They communicated through light patterns and had specifically requested to observe the human-predator bond that the Velkari had described in their preliminary reports. Rex looked around the chamber with calm interest. To him, these were just more strange-smelling creatures to observe and evaluate. His training as an emotional support animal had prepared him to remain calm in unusual situations, and this definitely qualified. War Commander Vexith approached the human delegation with typical Threnody directness. His massive frame and natural armor made him an intimidating presence, and he was accustomed to other species showing signs of fear or submission. He stopped when he saw Rex. The dog was lying, down in what humans would recognize as a relaxed position, but to the Threnody warrior, it looked like something else entirely. The predator was so confident in its abilities that it could rest while surrounded by potential enemies. Its casual position suggested such overwhelming power that it felt no need to display aggressive postures. Rex yawned, showing his teeth briefly, then put his head back down on his paws. War Commander Vexith stepped backward instinctively. The creature had just demonstrated that it could shift from rest to attack readiness in seconds, revealing weapons that could clearly tear through armor, then return to rest as if the display meant nothing. "Impressive," rumbled the Threnody leader, his voice filled with genuine respect. "Your battle companion shows the confidence of a true apex warrior." "Rex is pretty laid back," agreed G1, not catching the military interpretation. "He's good at staying calm in stressful situations. That's part of why he's so good at his job." The ethereal wisps began communicating with rapid light patterns, their crystalline containers flashing in sequences that hurt to look at directly. Dr. Minho's translation equipment struggled with their energy-based language, but eventually produced a readable message. "They want to communicate directly with your companion," announced Minho, looking puzzled. "They believe he may be the true decision-maker in your delegation." "With Rex?" G1 looked down at the dog, who had lifted his head at the mention of his name. "I mean, he's smart, but he's still just a dog." The wisps intensified their light display, creating patterns that swept across the chamber in complex geometric forms. Rex watched the lights with typical canine curiosity, his head tilting as the bright patterns moved overhead. Suddenly, Rex's tail began to wag. The moving lights reminded him of laser pointers and flashlight games that humans sometimes played with him. His tail beat against the floor in a steady rhythm as he tracked the light patterns. The ethereal wisps went completely still. Their light patterns stopped moving as they processed what had just happened. The apex predator had not only acknowledged their communication attempt, but had responded with what appeared to be a complex rhythmic signal. "He approves of our peaceful intentions," translated one of the wisp's messages. "The tail movement indicates acceptance of our presence." Ambassador Quilneth, who had been observing the interactions, felt her antlers shift through several color patterns. Each new species that encountered the human delegation came away with the same impression. Humanity possessed something beyond normal military power. Dr. Minho was beginning to notice the pattern in the translations. Every species kept using terms related to warfare, hunting, and dominance when referring to Rex. His linguistic training told him this was more than coincidence, but he still had not figured out what was really happening. "Perhaps," he suggested carefully, "we should clarify the role of companion animals in human society. There seems to be some confusion about Rex's function." "No confusion," replied War Commander Vexith immediately. "Your Apex Guardian's role is clear. The question is how your species achieved such perfect integration with your world's ultimate predators." Engineer Doyun decided to show more videos from Earth, hoping to clarify human-dog relationships. He selected footage that showed the diversity of human-dog interactions, families with children playing with gentle breeds, elderly people walking small dogs, athletes training with active breeds. What the humans saw as examples of companionship and diversity, the aliens interpreted as something completely different. They observed humans of all ages and physical conditions successfully managing predator relationships. Even their smallest and weakest members could control these dangerous creatures. One video showed a small human child, perhaps 5 years old, giving commands to a large golden retriever. The dog obeyed instantly, sitting, staying, and coming, when called. Your youngest warriors begin training with smaller predators, observed science leader Tormin, building skills for managing larger battle companions as they mature. That's just Emma playing with her dog Bailey, said Do-hyun, completely missing the point. Bailey is great with kids. He's very gentle and patient. Another video showed an elderly woman walking a tiny chihuahua on a leash. The small dog trotted beside her, alert and protective despite its size. Even your eldest maintain predator partnerships, noted Ambassador Quilneth. Using reconnaissance specialists suited to their physical capabilities, Rex, who had been quietly observing the various alien species, decided it was time for a walk. He stood up and moved to Jiwon's side, looking up at his human with the expression that clearly said, "Bathroom break time." "Excuse me," said Jiwon, standing up. "Rex needs to go outside for a few minutes. We'll be right back." The alien delegations watched in fascination as the human prepared to accompany his predator companion. Jiwon attached Rex's leash and headed toward the exit, with the dog walking slightly ahead. To the aliens, this looked like the predator was leading a reconnaissance mission, with its human partner following in a support role. The fact that the human willingly let the creature guide their movement showed a level of trust and tactical coordination that impressed every species present. "The predator conducts perimeter security," whispered War Commander Vexith to his aide. "The human provides backup and communication support." 10 minutes later, Jiwon and Rex returned to the chamber. Rex looked satisfied and relaxed, having taken care of his basic needs and enjoyed a brief exploration of the alien ship's corridors. The alien observers noted that both human and predator appeared refreshed and alert after their tactical patrol. Clearly, the reconnaissance mission had been successful. "Everything okay?" asked Security Chief Hyeji. "All good," replied Jiwon, settling back into his seat. Rex just needed some exercise. Dr. Minho finally made the connection he had been missing. Every translation error, every strange interpretation, every reference to warfare and predators. It all pointed to the same impossible conclusion. The aliens thought Rex was not a pet, but humanity's secret weapon. The realization hit him like a physical blow. He looked around the chamber at the various alien species, all watching Rex with expressions of awe and respect. He saw Ambassador Quilneth's careful attention to every move the dog made. He noticed War Commander Vexith maintaining a respectful distance from what he clearly considered a superior warrior. Dr. Minho opened his mouth to explain the misunderstanding, then closed it again. This was bigger than a simple translation error. This was a fundamental misinterpretation that had shaped every interaction since their arrival. Rex, completely unaware of his elevated status, yawned again and settled down for another nap. Him? This was just another day of being a good dog in an interesting place with lots of new smells. To the assembled alien species, they had just witnessed the most confident display of power they had ever seen, an apex predator so secure in its dominance that it could sleep peacefully while surrounded by representatives of multiple galactic civilizations. The misunderstanding was about to reach critical mass, and Dr. Minho was the only human who realized it. The formal dinner was meant to be the highlight of the diplomatic mission. Ambassador Quilneth had spent days planning a meal that would honor both human and predator dietary requirements based on the biological data Earth had provided. The dining chamber was decorated with the finest Velkari crystal sculptures, and representatives from all 4 alien species were present to witness this historic moment. Captain Jiwon entered the chamber with Rex walking beside him, both unaware that they were about to participate in what the aliens considered the most important interspecies bonding ceremony in galactic history. The table arrangement immediately showed how seriously the aliens were taking Rex's presence. A special platform had been constructed at the same height as the table, positioned directly next to Jiwan's seat. Fine, crystalline bowls filled with what appeared to be perfectly prepared raw meat had been placed on Rex's platform. "This is incredible," said Jiwan, looking around at the elaborate preparations. "You really went all out for this dinner." "We wanted to show proper respect," replied Ambassador Quilneth, her antlers glowing with formal silver patterns. "Especially to your honored companion. We have prepared what we believe are appropriate foods for both human and predator nutritional requirements." Jiwan looked at the bowls on Rex's platform and felt a moment of confusion. The meat looked fresh and expensive, far beyond what anyone would normally serve to a pet. "This is very generous, but Rex usually just eats regular dog food. This looks like premium steak." "Only the finest for an Apex Guardian," rumbled War Commander Vexith from across the table. "A warrior of such standing deserves tribute meals." Dr. Minho, who had been wrestling with his growing understanding of the situation, watched nervously as Rex approached his platform. The dog sniffed at the bowls with polite interest, his tail wagging slightly at the good smells. Meanwhile, Jiwan's meal consisted of what appeared to be carefully balanced nutrition bars and protein supplements. The aliens had apparently decided that the human partner of an apex predator would need specially formulated sustenance to maintain peak performance. Said Jiwan, looking at his plate. "What exactly is this?" "High-energy combat rations," explained science leader Tormin proudly, "designed to support the physical and mental demands of predator partnership. We analyzed your species' nutritional needs and optimized for maximum efficiency." Engineer Do-hyun stared at his own plate of protein bars and supplement tablets. "This looks like military field rations." "Exactly," agreed the ethereal wisp representative, their crystals flashing with satisfied patterns. "Fuel for warriors." Rex, having inspected his gourmet meal, looked up at Jiwan with the expression that clearly meant, "This smells interesting, but may I have permission to eat it?" It was the same look he gave at home when encountering any new food. "Go ahead, boy," said Jiwan, not knowing what else to say. "If it's safe for dogs, you can try it." Rex began to eat politely, taking small bites and chewing thoughtfully. His table manners were excellent, as befitted a well-trained dog who had been taught not to gulp his food or make messes. The alien observers watched in amazement. The apex predator was displaying perfect restraint and control, eating with deliberate precision rather than the savage consumption they had expected. This level of discipline was beyond anything they had imagined possible. "Remarkable," whispered Ambassador Quilneth to science leader Tormin. "See how he moderates his consumption. Even during feeding, he maintains tactical awareness and control." The dinner conversation began with standard diplomatic topics, but the aliens kept steering the discussion back to Rex and human-predator relationships. Dr. Minho found himself sweating as each question revealed more about the depth of the misunderstanding. "We are curious about the bonding rituals," said War Commander Vexith. "How does a human establish dominance over such a powerful predator?" "Well," said Jiwan slowly, "you don't really dominate a dog. It's more about building trust and friendship. Rex and I are partners." The aliens absorbed this information with growing reverence. The human spoke of partnership with an apex predator as if it were the most natural thing in the world. The level of confidence and skill this represented was staggering. Rex finished his meal and, satisfied with the good food, decided it was time for some attention. He walked around the table platform and approached Jiwan's chair. Without any ceremony, he rolled over onto his back next to his human seat, exposing his belly and looking up with trusting brown eyes. The entire dining chamber went completely silent. Every alien present understood what they were witnessing. The most dangerous predator any of them had ever encountered was voluntarily displaying its most vulnerable position, showing complete trust in its human partner. This was not just a demonstration of the bond between the species. This was the ultimate display of the predator's confidence in human protection. Ambassador Quilneth's antlers went through rapid color changes as she processed the significance of what she was seeing. War Commander Vexith actually stepped back from the table, overwhelmed by the trust being displayed. The ethereal wisp's crystals dimmed to almost nothing as they focused all their energy on understanding this moment. "He wants belly rubs," explained Jiwan, reaching down to scratch Rex's stomach. "He does this when he's happy and relaxed." The dog's leg kicked reflexively as Jiwan found the perfect spot, and Rex's tail wagged against the floor in pure contentment. His tongue lolled out in an expression of complete satisfaction. To the humans, this was a normal moment of affection between a man and his dog. To the aliens, they were witnessing something that would be talked about for generations across the galaxy. "The trust," whispered science leader Tormin, his voice filled with awe. "The absolute trust between species." Ambassador Quilneth stood up slowly, her entire body trembling with emotion. "Captain Jiwan of Earth, we formally request to witness the bonding ritual. Would your people consider sharing the secrets of apex predator partnership with other species?" The request was so earnest, so deeply respectful that Dr. Minho finally realized he could not let this continue. The truth had to come out, but he needed to find a way to explain it that would not shatter the aliens' image of humanity or destroy the diplomatic relationships they were building. "Ambassador Quilneth," he said carefully, "I think there may be some misunderstandings about Rex's role in our society. Perhaps we should discuss this privately." "Misunderstandings?" asked War Commander Vexith. "What misunderstandings could there be? We have observed the perfect partnership, the ultimate alliance between species. Your Apex Guardian has shown trust beyond anything we thought possible." Rex, still enjoying his belly rubs, stretched and made a small, contented sound. His complete relaxation in the presence of 4 different alien species was being interpreted as the most impressive display of confidence and control ever witnessed. Dr. Minho looked around the table at the faces of the alien delegates, all filled with genuine admiration and respect. They were not just impressed by human technology or intelligence. They were awed by what they believed was humanity's greatest achievement, turning their world's most dangerous predator into their most loyal friend. The irony was that they were not entirely wrong. Humanity had achieved something remarkable. They had taken wolves, the apex predators of their ancient world, and through thousands of years of patience, kindness, and mutual respect, had created a partnership based on love rather than fear. But explaining that Rex was not a war beast, not a trained killer, not a tactical advantage, but simply a friend who wanted nothing more than food, shelter, and affection, that was going to be the most delicate diplomatic challenge of his career. The misunderstanding had reached its peak, and now came the moment of truth. Dr. Minho took a deep breath and prepared to reveal the reality behind humanity's most powerful secret weapon, the ability to love unconditionally. The ethereal wisp's crystals dimmed to almost nothing as they processed this information. War Commander Vexith looked at Rex with new eyes, seeing not a trained killer but something he had no frame of reference for understanding. "But the 1 billion predator companions," said Ambassador Quilneth weakly. "The massive training operations we observed in your videos. Those were families playing with their pets in parks," said Engineer Do-hyun gently. "Children throwing balls for dogs to fetch. People walking their companions for exercise and fresh air. What you saw as military training was just humans and dogs having fun together." Jiwan finally began to understand what had happened. "Wait, you thought Rex was some kind of weapon? He's just my emotional support dog. He helps me stay calm during stressful situations, like this diplomatic mission." Rex, hearing his name and sensing the emotional tension in the room, stood up and walked over to Jiwan. He rested his head on the captain's knee and looked up with gentle brown eyes, providing exactly the comfort he had been trained to give. Gesture was so simple, so purely motivated by care for his human's well-being, that it broke through every misunderstanding in an instant. Ambassador Quilneth stared at the scene for a long moment, her antlers cycling through colors that had no translation in any human language. When she finally spoke, her voice was filled with wonder rather than disappointment. "You mean to tell us," she said slowly, "that your species took apex predators, creatures that could kill you, and through patience and kindness, turned them into beings who care more about your emotional well-being than their own survival? Well, when you put it that way, said Jiwan, scratching behind Rex's ears, it does sound pretty impressive. War Commander Vexith stepped forward, his massive armored form towering over the seated humans. Captain Jiwan, in my culture, strength is measured by the ability to defeat enemies. But what you describe is not defeating an enemy. It is creating a friend from what could have been your greatest threat. Science leader Tormund's antlers were now glowing bright white, a color the humans had not seen before. The implications are staggering. If humans can build that level of trust and loyalty through love rather than dominance, what else might they be capable of? The ethereal wisp representative began flashing rapid light patterns that Dr. Minho's translation equipment struggled to keep up with. Finally, a message appeared. Your species has achieved what we thought impossible. You have turned evolutionary competition into cooperation through voluntary affection. Ambassador Quilneth approached Rex slowly, her movements careful and respectful. May I pet your companion again? Not as a diplomatic gesture between apex predators, but as a meeting between friends? Of course, said Jiwan. Rex loves making new friends. As Quilneth gently stroked Rex's head, the dog's tail wagged and he leaned into the contact, seeking more affection. The simple gesture said more about human nature than any diplomatic presentation could have. This is not less impressive than what we believed, said Quilneth softly. This is more impressive. To take a creature capable of hunting you and through love and patience, create a bond so strong that it will sacrifice anything for your well-being. This speaks to a level of empathy and emotional intelligence that we never suspected. The next morning, the formal signing ceremony took place in the main conference chamber. But instead of the military alliance the aliens had originally expected, they were signing something unprecedented in galactic history. The first interspecies companion animal cultural exchange agreement. Captain Jiwan stood at the podium with Rex beside him, looking out at representatives from 4 different alien species and dozens of their colleagues who had arrived overnight to witness this historic moment. Today marks not just first contact between our species, announced Ambassador Quilneth, but the beginning of a new understanding of what civilization can achieve. The humans have shown us that the greatest strength is not the ability to dominate, but the ability to love. The signing ceremony was interrupted several times by young aliens who had been brought specifically to meet Rex. Under careful supervision from their parents, they approached the dog with wonder and curiosity. Rex, true to his nature as a therapy animal, remained patient and gentle as alien children touched his fur and marveled at his friendly demeanor. How long? Asked a young Velkari whose antlers were barely developed. Does it take to turn a scary animal into a friend? Jiwan knelt, down to the child's level, with Rex sitting beside him. It depends on the animal and the person, but the most important thing is that you have to really care about them, and they have to know you care. Rex and I have been together for 3 years, but he started trusting me on the very first day. War Commander Vexith, who had been observing the interaction, made a decision that would echo through Threnody culture for generations. Captain Jiwan, would your people be willing to teach us these companion bonding techniques? My species has always believed that strength comes from conquest. Perhaps it is time we learned about strength through friendship. Dr. Minho smiled as he watched Rex become the center of attention for a group of alien dignitaries who were learning that the most dangerous thing about Earth's apex predators was how quickly they could steal your heart. The cultural exchange program that followed would bring dozens of alien species to Earth, not to study human military technology or conquest strategies, but to learn about animal shelters, veterinary medicine, and the simple art of pet ownership. Rex never fully understood his role as the galaxy's first interspecies ambassador, but he seemed to enjoy the extra attention and the variety of new friends he made. His greatest achievement was not establishing humanity as a military power, but demonstrating something far more impressive: that love, patience, and kindness could bridge any gap between species. 6 months later, the first alien families arrived on Earth to adopt rescue dogs from human shelters. The sight of a Velkari child teaching a golden retriever to sit, while her crystalline antlers glowed with joy, became one of the most shared images in galactic communication networks. Ambassador Quilneth summarized the impact best in her final report. We came expecting to meet conquerors and found teachers instead. The humans have given us something worth more than any military alliance. They have shown us how to turn fear into friendship, suspicion into trust, and strangers into family. Rex, for his part, was just happy to have helped his human make so many new friends. After all, that was what good dogs did. Human brought a dog into First Contact Part 6. The Truth and New Understanding. Dr. Minho had requested a private meeting with the alien leaders, claiming urgent diplomatic protocols needed to be discussed. The smaller chamber felt cramped with representatives from 4 different species, all eager to understand what the humans needed to share about their apex predator partnerships. Captain G1 sat with Rex at his feet, still completely unaware of the situation. The dog was relaxed after his excellent dinner, occasionally looking up at the various aliens with calm interest. Before we proceed further, began Dr. Minho carefully, I need to clarify something important about Rex and his role in human society. Ambassador, Quilneth's antlers shifted to attentive blue patterns. Of course, we are honored that you would share such significant information with us. Rex is not what you think he is, said Minho slowly. He is not a war beast, not a battle companion, not an apex predator in the way you understand the term. He is what we call a pet. A companion animal kept for emotional support and friendship. The silence in the chamber was profound. War Commander, Vexith was the first to speak, his voice confused. A pet? What is this word? A pet is an animal that lives with humans not for military purposes but for companionship, for love. Rex lives with Captain G1 because they enjoy each other's company. He provides emotional comfort when the captain is stressed or anxious. Science leader Tormund's antlers flickered through several color patterns of confusion. But the perfect obedience, the tactical awareness, the trust displays, those come from thousands of years of breeding and training, but not for war, explained Minho. Humans bred dogs to be companions, friends, helpers in daily life. Rex obeys Captain G1 because he loves him and wants to please him. He shows his belly because he trusts that he will receive affection, not because of some military bonding ritual. The